TGIF Friday, January 10th, 2024. Well, as we have been discussing this week, lots to talk about. There's a lot on the table all across the United States. And boy, that's really going to be the case over the next 7 to 14 days, as we'll put into focus for you here in a moment. Wintry scenes now, winter landscapes all across the Western High Plains and Rockies now, and there's more of this winter weather coming. Now today, most of you are going to be in between weather systems. The wave that came in Wednesday night and Thursday morning has now moved into the southern part of the United States, causing a real mess. We're a little bit of high pressures overhead, but as the next front approaches, we're going to see some windy areas. So the I-25, the Interstate 80 corridor locations, more gusty and strong winds today. Late tonight through the weekend, more waves are coming. A stronger wave tonight and Saturday, little waves Saturday, Sunday into Monday. This is really going to focus its attention on Montana, the northeast counties of Wyoming and western South Dakota. Everybody's going to get into the act, but the heaviest snow is going to be in that area. Lighter amounts of snow will be found elsewhere, but in northwest winds aloft, it's tricky because you'll have pockets of heavier snowfall in some locations, lighter amounts everywhere. You're going to have very cold temperatures and very cold wind chills continuing. And so there's going to be some slick roads, slick highways, poor travel in many areas. Then we have a break. This readjustment takes place as we get into the middle of next week. This is most likely going to be in that, let's say, Tuesday through Friday time frame of next week. We'll have a little bit of a moderation in temperature. We'll see the winds die down a bit. We won't have any new snow chances. However, the potential for a cold outbreak the weekend of the 18th and beyond is still on the table. And we're going to spend some time on this and more on it next week. We just have to see what unfolds. But there's the potential this could be a nationwide cold outbreak developing in the longer term. And we'll show you why we think that might happen. Some shot of some very turbulent cirrus and iridescent clouds in the Jackson Hole area. Winds aloft, kind of strong in that area, causing some turbulent flow over the mountains. And you can see a lot of fresh snow there on the ski slopes and the mountain slopes. This morning, if you're headed anywhere in the southeastern United States, a lot of winter weather showing up there on radar with a band of ice. Look at all that ice in the pink there. Then moderate to heavy snow on the northern end of the storm system. Here's the next system that's coming tonight and tomorrow. Satellite imagery shows that very, very well. And here's the break in the weather pattern that we're going to be in today with the next system approaching out of British Columbia in the Pacific Northwest. When we take a look at all of the advisories, watches, and warnings for weather across the United States, that is a lot of real estate. Add up the acreage here of somebody under a winter storm warning or winter weather advisory. That's a big chunk of land there. Here we go in the west. Here's that area that is really going to have a lot of winter weather. And I'm going to extend that into even, the weather doesn't really care about borders. So even though in western North Dakota and western South Dakota, you're not in a situation where you're under a winter storm watch or warning or advisory, it doesn't mean the snow stops at the border. However, we'll extend that and we'll focus in on this area here. I think that is going to potentially have a lot of rough weather this weekend with wind and snow. And if you're in this area, livestock interest, it's going to be kind of a rough 3 or 4 day period of occasional snow, wind, and very cold temperatures. Here's your wind watches and warnings. In the brown areas and the pink areas are under winter storm warnings. This includes the Black Hills of South Dakota, the mountains of southern Wyoming. We've got winter weather advisories for portions of the western mountains and valleys of Wyoming. The blue here are winter storm watches. And as I just mentioned, the weather knows no borders. And I think this area right here, we're going to have, it's going to be extended further south in terms of where the nasty winter weather will be. So that includes Niobrara County, Weston County, Converse County, the Pine Ridge area, Chadron Alliance, those areas up there, and even back into the Casper Douglas areas. I think we've got some hazardous travel and some nasty winter weather coming starting tonight. Here's today to start off the pattern. The moist air coming up from the Gulf region, the cold air from Canada, all colliding right there. Here is tonight and tomorrow's wave. And there it is by noon tomorrow. Very quickly, moving in, winds aloft come in from the north, bringing in cold Canadian air, a lot of wind into the plains, cold air comes in, and since this system does have a little connection here to Pacific moisture, it's coming off the water, not so much off the land, so there's a bit more moisture with this system. By Monday morning, it kind of stretches out, and this low is going to break off and retrograde off to the west coast, which could produce another Santa Ana wind. Don't want to see that, but it's on the table. This low breaking off from the main low will allow this to move eastward and spread cold air back across the eastern side of the United States, while high pressure builds in early next week. So this is the precipitation pattern between now and Monday. So you can see there's lots up here with the darker colors in that area that I've just been highlighting, lighter amounts elsewhere. We got a bit of a downslope precipitation hole in northern Colorado because the winds from the northwest will be coming downslope. But a lot of upslope along the ridges happen with the northwest wind aloft in Montana, Wyoming, and the Dakotas and western Nebraska. So let's convert that to snowfall. And you can see the area right up here where there's a little bit more pinks. The Bighorn Mountains will get a lot of snow out of this, so will the Black Hills and the adjacent plains. Temperatures will warm up a bit and things settle down a little bit by the middle of next week. That low that gets cut off goes off the west coast. So here's another potential Santa Ana Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. This little guy up here is going to be the instigator to set into motion a series of changes in the weather pattern that will end up resulting in a bigger change next weekend. And this is what it looks like. Look at this amplification, the change in the pattern. This is Wednesday of next week. This is next Sunday. You're talking about a very large scale pattern change with a big high pressure ridge, as we discussed yesterday. It all depends on how far north that ridge goes. That displaces very cold air. And again, we're talking about a very large part of real estate. Essentially, the trough structure goes from the coast of Oregon to New England in terms of the structure of this trough. This is big. This is a very big outbreak of cold. We'll just have to see what happens. It all depends on what happens here. We'll just have to watch it. But there's something, not unusual, but something that we watch in these situations to where we kind of say, all right, the models are saying this. Is it really going to happen? You'd like to see some other things come into play to do that. And when you're in the heart of winter, some of you may be familiar with this term. We've brought it up in years past. It's called stratospheric warming events, to where the higher reaches of the atmosphere, the stratosphere, as you get up to 50, 60, 70, 80,000 feet, has a warming trend. The stratospheric warming events causes the stratosphere to expand. And as it expands, it pushes the colder air at the surface south. It's kind of like an accordion. If you took an accordion and turned it vertically, when the stratosphere expands due to warmth, that pushes the colder air at the surface away. And what we see developing, what I want you to focus in on right here, is this red patch right here that then comes over Canada and the U.S. by next weekend. So this graphic starts Tuesday, and what you see is this area of red park itself over Canada, the United States. Also notice a consolidation of this purple and blue here, of a collection of extremely cold air in the higher latitudes. So if we see this and we see this, well, then our confidence is higher that a large-scale cold outbreak next weekend and beyond is looking possible. Of course, we're only talking trend here. I can't get into specifics.